Good evening, welcome. It is All for United. We are back. So is football. We've had the international break. It's gone. Thank the Lord. Proper football's back. And what a day it's been. If you're a United fan, it's a little bit like waking up on Christmas morning, getting to the bottom of the stairs, and first of all, you see that Santa's been. And that was 3 points, 3 goals as Manchester United defeated Southampton. And then you got the big present where we all saw that Liverpool lost to Nottingham Forest, which was wonderful. So we're all delighted over here. I might not look too great in a minute. I think I've got a cold coming on, so that's always fun. But I've taken my medicine. We're all good. And I've got a brilliant panel. So the good news is, hopefully, I don't have to do too much talking. And this lot will carry us through. But we shall see. There's plenty to talk about. But let's see how everybody's doing. First of all, he does our Twitter. He's a lovely bloke and he's got great hair. It's Matt Morgan. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm all good. It's nice to be on a review show after a win for a change after the Liverpool game. So yeah, it's good to be back, and hopefully a more positive show this time after today's result.
You're not kidding, and of course we've 1,200 followers on Twitter now. So well done, you lot, for pushing the right buttons. Speaking of follow, if you haven't clicked it yet, do so. Like, subscribe, all those bits and bobs you're supposed to do. Just down here, he does our TikToks. And we managed to get ourselves over 800. So if it wasn't for the fact that I had to go to a birthday party this afternoon, I would have been live on TikTok discussing the win. But never mind, there's plenty of games for us to do that. And I'm very much looking forward to it. But Beanie, how the bloody hell are you?
Yeah, like Matt says, it's nice to be on a show. Positive, Scousers lose, United win. What more do you want from a day? It's great stuff.
Cake, and I had that, so it was all very good. All the way over from Florida, the one, the only, also great hair for both Beanie and John Commode. How you doing, sir? Everything all right?
I'm very good, thank you. You put it quite well there. It's been a great day. 3 points. Liverpool losing after TalkSport put a tweet out that Arne Slot will be the potentially the next great coach of his generation is something special, which is fucking hilarious, isn't it? So it's brilliant, and all good. So good to be on the second week in a row. I think Bournemouth might have a penalty as well. So
absolutely. And for those of you who are wondering why I've commented on how good everybody's hair is, hello, boss. How you doing? Need ice. More. All aboard the title charge, says Bucks. Who says that Man United fans get a little bit overexcited? Not I. And of course, Benny's here. Watch your Benny. Under 18 smash Newcastle 5-1 with Biancheri getting a brace, which is great news. Ten Hag's taken us upon the Hogwarts Express. You know what? That'd be magical, wouldn't it? So it's all good. Absolutely loving it. So, where to begin, boys? Where to begin? I suppose we should probably begin looking at the team because it was quite an interesting one. I would suppose the eyebrows that were raised anywhere, if they were with not with Casemiro being dropped, but with Eriksen being promoted to the centre of midfield. So, Matt, we'll go to you first on that one. We see that team sheet coming out there, as obviously we tweet that out an hour before kickoff. Was it a surprising one for you to see Eriksen there, or was that the logical change that we needed to make? Casemiro out and Eriksen in.
Yeah, I feel like after the after the Liverpool game, I think he had to sort of maybe take Casemiro out of the limelight a little bit. Obviously, because he got quite a lot of stick following, obviously, the 2 mistakes that he made. The 2 bad passes led to a couple of Liverpool goals at the time. Obviously, there was a bit of a debate whether Ugarte maybe come straight in. But I thought, obviously, he's just come back from, obviously, international duty with Uruguay. So I thought maybe he might mix it up a little bit. I was thinking Casemiro, he may have just stuck with him. So I wasn't overly surprised with Eriksen. I wasn't expecting Ugarte to come straight in. But in fairness, Eriksen came in and done the job perfectly well. And in fairness, they all played well, but Eriksen takes his first probably full game in I don't know how long. Very impressive.
Absolutely. Fair enough over there. Beanie, for you, was it, I mean, you obviously do your TikTok. I know you put out a what you thought the squad was going to be. How well did that match up to what you thought it was going to be?
Well, I'd have started with Ugarte. I mean, he looked like he had some good games with Uruguay, but the word is he's apparently not been well while he's been on international duty. So whether that's had a role in that. But knowing Ten Hag, I wasn't overly surprised when he didn't play him. He likes to, as you say, he likes to bed them in, and he's only had a couple of training sessions with the lads, so he's not quick at pushing them in, is he? Wasn't overly surprised he started with Rashford. I mean, obviously hindsight's a great thing, but I was quite. He likes to stick with him, don't he? I think he wants to give him the chance there, and it worked out. I was surprised with Eriksen. I thought he might have gone Collier, to be honest. I didn't think he'd play Casemiro, but given the fact that the legs is the issue in the middle of the park, and we are quite soft in the middle, I was quite surprised that he went down the Eriksen route. But I actually thought Eriksen played quite well. I thought he did what he did. I thought he did quite well. So yeah, I think that the team was pretty much as I thought, but. Yeah, Eriksen was a little bit of a curveball that he threw out there, but like I say, and he did well, I thought.
John, would you say Eriksen's a bit of a forgotten man at the moment when it comes to Manchester United? Because there was a lot of talk about the midfield. Eriksen wasn't really mentioned all that much. And with Casemiro obviously having a bit of a disaster class against Liverpool, it was always going to have to be some sort of change in the middle. But we know that Christian Eriksen is a good footballer with some good pedigree. You know, he's an international for Denmark and a player that we know can perform well even at this time of his career. And in the nicest of ways, it's Southampton. Is this not the sort of game where you can bring in someone like Christian Eriksen because his experience is going to help carry the team through? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say so. I think Eriksen is, like you say, he can be a bit of a forgotten man at times. Obviously, he's not as good as he used to be, but he certainly brings a stability. I think what we noticed with the Liverpool game with Casemiro was how sloppy he was in possession, and that obviously left to Liverpool scoring twice. Whereas Eriksen, obviously the question was he hasn't really got the legs to run the midfield, so there was always the potential danger we could be outrun. And, while Southampton haven't picked up a result this season, they are a possession-based team, so they have the potential to cause us a bit of grief in the middle of the park today. So it was gambling in that regard, but I didn't think after the performance he had, and we all know with Ten Hag, he likes to stick with players until they have a bad game, then he'll bring probably the player he wants to bring in. So, and that's why I think because Casemiro was dropped, had a bad game, he needs to be dropped. He probably won't start he might start Tuesday, but he probably won't start a league game for a while. Whereas, and obviously, as we know with Garte's new sign, he's only had a couple of training sessions, and and then the other option is Collier. Do you want to really bring a 20-year-old into that situation? Him and Mainu in the midfield in a must-win game, it's probably the biggest gamble. So when you factor everything in, Eriksen was probably the best option because while his legs aren't what they used to be, he is good at retaining possession. He's one to keep a cool head in the midfield, and that's more than anything what we needed there. And I think overall he had a good game. So for me, we'll have to see whether Ugarte comes in once he gets a couple of games under his belt. But I think something has to be done, and overall it worked today. But like you say, it wasn't Southampton away. It's not the strongest opposition out there, so you could probably get away with it.
I think so. I mean, it was interesting seeing, Matt, that of the goals scored in the Premier League, Southampton had 1, United had 2. TNT had a big thing about putting that out there just to show that we were watching a game that had been chosen for TV that had the 2 lowest scorers in the Premier League thus far, which to me doesn't make much sense if you're trying to sell a game, but there we go. What was interesting though, Matt, is that Southampton did start well. Now, there was a lot of people talking, and Beanie, I'm sure we get to you on this one, you'll mention that as well, Dan in our group chat, who was meant to be here today, but his Little's not feeling too well either, so I hope she gets better over there and that Danny Boy's all right. But he just put one word, he put battered. He said we were battered up until the penalty. I didn't think necessarily battered was the correct word, but we were certainly under the cosh. We were on the back foot. I don't recall really seeing a huge number of opportunities. And really, there was just the one save from Anana that I can recall being pushed around the post. But they certainly were the better side for the opening 25 minutes or so, weren't they? Why?
I feel like they were just up for it more. I feel like obviously with the newly promoted teams, to them, obviously United come into their place, it's almost like a cup final for them. You see it quite a lot with a lot of the newly promoted sides when United are in town. They show up for half an hour, 35 minutes. Obviously, like I did agree with what you said in the chat. To be fair, I don't think battered was the correct term for it. I think maybe they wanted it a bit more in the opening half an hour, which you do understand. They're at home in front of their own fans. The crowd are behind them. But like you say, there wasn't any, apart from that one that Anana tipped round the post, there wasn't that many clear-cut chances that they created. They obviously were putting pressure on us, but the defence was solid, dealing with everything they were throwing at us perfectly well, eased the pressure. And then obviously once they had that penalty, obviously we kicked on from there. But yeah, I won't say battered is the right word. I just think they were up for it, probably more than we were for the opening half an hour. But in the end, the quality shone through, which is all that matters, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's brilliant. It's almost like seeing his name, this, isn't it? Dribbling, let's dab hand, dribbling, and he certainly did. He was doing incredibly well down that right-hand side. But Beanie, you agreed to a degree with what Dan was saying. How far along that word battered would you agree with?
Yeah, pretty much like what you just said. I don't think we were battered. I think we were very much under the cosh. I think Southampton just came out quicker. I don't think Dallow had his greatest of games, and I think that young lad had him on toast quite a few times, and they were getting a lot of success down that side. They were winning the battle in midfield to a certain degree. I thought they were pulling us around a fair bit. But as someone just said in the chat, I think the penalty kick, I mean, moments like that change games, don't they? If that penalty kick goes in, we could be talking about a United defeat here. But I think that penalty kick, the save, I think it just woke us up. And I think from then, a little bit like the Liverpool game, we were okay for 30 minutes in the Liverpool game, and then we kind of died off. Whereas today, we were pretty rubbish for the first sort of 25, 30 minutes, and we woke up. And I thought it was our game. All the rest of it, I thought it was just us. Training game after that, I thought.
It's interesting, yeah. I mean, bath time saying I felt the first 30 minutes we were getting battered. Only Ligt was winning physical duels and we couldn't get out. I mean, I don't agree with the word battered. I don't think it makes it sound as though United weren't getting up the park at all and didn't have any opportunities. And we did certainly have, I mean, a couple, but certainly nothing great. You would absolutely agree that Southampton had the better of that half hour, 100%. But I mean, like Liverpool's a veteran, and we actually played reasonably well for some portions of that game as well. Yeah. John, what did you make of that first half an hour? Because again, I'm watching it and I'm just thinking the tempo was rising. You could see that all the way up towards the penalty kick. You could see that they were getting a bit of a head of steam. Were you worried at that point?
Yeah, a little bit, but not in the context of we're gonna lose. But I did feel we were under the cosh. I do agree we weren't battered or being battered. To me, battered suggests like they're creating chance after chance, and we're making last ditch tackles and keeper making many saves. It wasn't quite like that, but it was. They were keeping us in our half, and for me, I was saying the biggest risk. It's been an issue for us for years. We just don't have someone in the midfield who's capable of just getting hold of the ball and just say, let's just keep the ball for minutes, take some of the pressure off us. And that's been an issue for years, and it was the case during the first 30 minutes today. And I think obviously United traditionally start slowly after international breaks as well, so that could have been a factor. We never seem to get off on the front foot at the start of the game. Usually we're a team that has to build our way into a game the first 30 minutes, and then as the game goes on, you become more of a threat. That's traditionally the way we seem to play, and obviously Southampton being at home, they're in a worse situation than what we are, and they thought if we can capitalise on the first 30 minutes, that obviously led to the penalty kick, which was as blatant as penalty you'll ever see, but it was being built up to something that could potentially happen, and like you say, that winger Dallo on toast for much the day. So, but yeah, it wasn't a good 30 minutes.
No, it wasn't, and you said it there because obviously I was doing the tweets during the match as general. In fact, the only time I haven't done the tweets was when Liverpool won, so maybe we should sack Matt from that. That doesn't happen again.
Yeah,
but,
that one.
But I had to put it on there. We will always be honest on all for United. We're not going to sit there and, as we said, look for clickbait and try and argue things. 100% a penalty, wasn't it, Matt?
Oh yeah. There's no doubt about it. I think a lot of it they were debating. I think it was sort of like, was it in or outside the area? But you could see after the first replay, it was a definite penalty. They were never going to overturn it. Obviously, even if it wasn't a penalty, it's United. But yeah, there's no arguing. It was definitely a penalty, though, 100%.
What was he doing? I mean, I could see, you know that he's got past you. I can understand that.
Yeah.
But how, as defenders, especially someone like Dallo, who's no stranger to giving away a penalty, why is he? What possible reasons he thought this is a good idea? No. Let's slide in now. The only thing I can think of is that he thought he was outside the box and it would have just been a free kick, give him a chance to reset. Because other than that, it was never ever going to end in anything other than a set piece to Southampton.
Yeah, like I say, I think a lot of it, like it happened a couple of times. Obviously, even I think it was before or after the penalty. I think he got caught out of position, and he was expecting Martinez to come in and cover for him. So it did happen quite a few times. So I wasn't surprised to see him do what he did. But yeah, there was absolutely no need for him to do what he'd done. He might have been better off letting the player go. And obviously, it's a 50-50 whether we defend it or not. But yeah, for him to go diving in like he did, completely necessary. But he was caught out a few times in that first half, I must admit.
Possibly Simon Block saying Dallo gives away pens predominantly when he's playing left back. But again, I agree. That is generally where we tend to see it happen. It's one of the reasons why he shouldn't be there. It was fear from Dallo. The young lad did him 2 minutes earlier. And this is it. It can, goes to show, can cause you a problem. Beanie, for you, 100% a penalty. I don't think any of us are going to disagree with that. But why? What was it that caused Diogo Dallo to just go in so rashly at a point when Southampton did have the upper hand?
Yeah, I mean, it was 100% a penalty, wasn't it? I mean, you can't look at it any other way, I don't think. I think there may have been an aspect of he probably thought he had more to pitch before he got to the pen. But I think it was just a build-up of the guy had him on toast for a large period of the game. And I think it was a little bit similar. Was it Madueke with Chelsea last season where he got done? And I don't know if it's a little bit of a panic and he just kind of dives in. But I agree with Matt. I would have probably just let him go and see if we can just defend that moment. Because then, as Matt said, it's a 50-50. But, is it a right back playing at left back? Is that the issue there? I don't know, because as the comment just said, most of his pens come from when he's at left back. Is it a body positioning angle type thing that you get when you're a right back playing at left? I don't know, but yeah, he's got it in him, and I think it's not the first time. I don't think it will be the last time we see that.
No, I mean, absolutely, it is a tricky one. NT saying don't want to go overboard on Dallo because he's been one of our best players in the last season or so. But that tackle was baffling, and it was. Bath time, we like to see Maz at right back. Actually, likes Maz at right back. Interesting to see who would start if any of our left backs had working legs. Box saying I'd put Dallo right back and Maz left back. I don't know. I haven't seen Mazraoui at left back, so it's hard to argue with that. It's human emotion.
I think he means that's probably why he got he gave away the
I'm not well, so I am going to be a bit slower than I normally am today. So I
Yes.
presume you mean he was just frustration, perhaps? Is that what you're getting at? I won't be able to play the games today, Simon. I'm sorry. I'm clearly struggling at the minute. So you're going to have to give kid gloves for me today, I'm afraid. I can just feel it coming. But there we are. Didn't matter, though, did it? Once had the penalty, Onana did something that I don't think David De Gea did for virtually the entirety of his career. I think maybe say one, but he actually stop it. Why would you all pick on me? I never pick on you, lot. Ages. I'm fighting if this happens. What they're all doing? What the hell? See, wait until I'm ill before you come in. I can see what's going on here. You all know that when I'm switched on, we're not having it. Outrageous, whatever. He had his moments, but generally, certainly towards the end of his career at United, you just didn't feel confident that De Gea might save it. But Onana there absolutely nailed it, didn't he, John? It was a brilliant save down to his right.
Yeah.
You could argue it was an easy height for him to save that.
Yeah.
He still went the right way.
Yeah, it was a good save. I do think that. I mean, you tend to look at the penalty taker, and to me, that Southampton. I can't remember the bird took it, but he didn't look that confident. Taker, he looked a bit, that it could potentially miss. Like you say, the penalty. I think it's one of them that if the keeper dives the right way, which Onana did to his credit, they probably ought to save it because, like you say, it was a good height. It's not right in the corner, so if you dive the right way, you got a reasonable chance of saving it. It was more a poor penalty than a good save, but he dived the right way, which was good. I just think that, and obviously that changed the game, and I felt because I think at that moment, Southampton, the heads just dropped. They knew they'd been on top for 20 minutes and they had a golden chance to take the lead. And as soon as that golden chance went, I think their heads dropped more than ours were raised. But as we know, and it led to the first goal, that it happens so often in football, you miss a big chance and then the other team goes up the other end and you're punished for it. So, but very good save from Onana. It was. And maybe just something like that, you could look back on it the end of the season and think that's where it started for us. So it was, you can't underestimate what a key moment that was.
Certainly can't. But it was also very interesting, wasn't it, Matt? Because there was a couple of things that happened around the penalty. Once it was given, obviously VAR had to check it. That I didn't think took too long, and nor should it, because it was obvious to pretty much everybody that it was definitely going to be a penalty. It was just a case of whether or not there was an argument of it being in the box or outside. And the original guy that was going to take the penalty ended up giving the ball to Cameron Archer. So they switched penalty takers, which is never always the greatest of ideas. And he had to wait for a while. And the commentators, again, took great delight in saying, he's waited 51 seconds before he was able to take that. I think that's rubbish. Simon will, I'm sure, agree with me here. It's about your mentality. You should be able to take a penalty, regardless whether you're waiting a minute or not. But the pressure can build in that respect. Do you think it was a good save from Onana, or do you think that Archer's basically bottled it?
No, I think a bit of both. But I think me personally, I was sat there at the time watching it. I was thinking I'd be very surprised if he saved it, because we're that used to United goalkeepers not even getting near penalties half the time. So I was sat there going, here we go again. Obviously, after the opening half now, we had as well. Sort of like, here we go. And obviously, he pulls off a save, and everyone's like, it just shows you what Onana can do in them moments. But yeah, I do agree. The commentators were making a big thing over he's been waiting 51 seconds. But at the end of the day, you're a professional footballer. You're there. Your job's to handle that pressure at the end of the day. So fair play. But again, even Onana, you could argue he he was stood there waiting for him to take the penalty. You could say the same for him, I suppose. I know he's not taking the penalty, but he's still got to try and figure out which way he's going to go. So, yeah, for me, really good save, but very surprising at the same time. But very glad he did save it because it did set us up well for the rest of the game.
And the penalties are brilliant, aren't they, when it comes to being a goalkeeper? Because ordinarily, if a goal is scored, there's a good chance that you could have a go at a goalkeeper and say they should have been in the right different position, should have done better. With a penalty, really, they can only ever be a hero. It's very rare that a penalty is taken and a goalkeeper is blamed for not saving it. It would need to be like one of the worst ever penalties. I always remember playing against my nephew when we were playing the FIFA games, and I've still got the video, I think, saved on my iPad. It was without question the worst penalty he's ever taken. It was rolling. My goalkeeper dives, has time to get up again and save the ball. It was one of the best things ever. But it just gets to say, doesn't it, for a goalkeeper, for Onana, it's got to be a positive thing that he can sit there and say, I could be a hero. And if not, it doesn't matter. Really, in that respect, I think Schmeichel was the same. You use that almost as fuel to be the hero and to change the fortunes of the team. When we saw, Schmeichel do that in '99 when Ryan Giggs went on to go and score that superb goal against Arsenal. If he hadn't saved the penalty, we never would have got to that point in the first place. So it can really G your side up, can't it?
Yeah, I think if anything, it probably takes the pressure off the keeper, doesn't it? Because like you say, if he goes in and, the striker should be scoring. But I thought Onana did quite well, even to get back up with the composure to kind of take the rebound as well. I thought it was a good hand. As John says, the pens go in the right way. If he guesses the right way, 9 times out of 10, he's probably going to save it, isn't he? But yeah, I mean, was that the moment in the game? Was Onana the hero in the game today that kind of propelled us to think, yeah, we can, it's our day, we can have this. But yeah, fair play to him. He's took a lot of stick, Onana, in the last year or so. Yeah, he had his moment today, and fair play, he took it.
Absolutely. Just going to throw this back up here, Benny. He said, De Gea saved more penalties than people actually realise. Just another boring narrative to suit an agenda that some have against certain players. I don't know if I came across wrong. I was saying towards the end of his career at United, he didn't have a great record of saving penalties. So all I'm getting at with that one is that he didn't fill me full of confidence. If a penalty was about to be taken, I expected it to go in. And I was surprised if it didn't. Certainly, he was there for such a long time. Of course, there was going to be lots of good stuff in the first half. And
it was human emotion, wasn't it, Barry?
Human emotion. I know Benny's not going to go at me. I know that, but that was just how I felt when those things came on. But it didn't matter because we went all the way down the other end, and we scored, Johnny boy, and it was absolutely bloody wonderful. It was delightful, shall we say? Superb. As the ball comes flying in, delight, boom, bottom corner. Had to double check to make sure it definitely got in. When it had, off the sofa we go. It was superb, wasn't it? To get his first goal for the club so soon, especially with everything that was going on post-Liverpool. We did question. I said this was the game that De Ligt should have started, without doubt. And that maybe the one against Liverpool was a game too soon for him. But absolutely proved why he should be starting for United today, didn't he? He was superb in defence, brilliant clearances, and scores the goal that puts us in the lead as well.
Yes, and I'm absolutely delighted for him because he's had a tough week. He's copped a lot of stick for his performances with the Netherlands. That European lad on Twitter was like, he should never play for the national team, and he makes so many errors and everything. And the way of feeling it again, it's how football works. I just had a feeling I won't rule him out starting getting a goal on Saturday. I just had that feeling actually, weirdly. But yeah, I thought he was very good today. I think Onana made a penalty save, but I think he made a couple crucial clearances prior to that well, and obviously the most noticeable thing about that first one is that it came from a corner. Well, and we'll come on to Rashford's goal, but it was well planned. Ericsson to Bruno, and Bruno whipped in. It was a fine header into the corner. So yeah, and like I say, it's redemption, and I think that, and we'll discuss the other goals. The most pleasing thing about today is it's not just 3-0, 3 points, but the fact is our goals and crucial moments in the game came from players who perhaps needed, something. Ligt would have benefited from a clean sheet and goal, and Rashford and that kind of thing. But as for the first goal, it was very well taken by Ligt. It was a lovely, well taken set piece, and I think practically after the penalty save and us going in the lead, I think that's when Southampton just thought it's just not going to be our day, and I think we're always going to win after that. I think.
I struggle to disagree with anything you said there, John, to be fair. Matt, I think it was just pleasurable to see, as I say, Ligt step up and show the world. I mean, even Virgil van Dijk's getting himself involved, and he was rubbish today. He gets up, has a go at our lad, and before you know it, he's losing at Nottingham Forest, and we've just smashed Southampton.
And by the way, he was at fault for one of the Netherlands goals as well.
Was he? I feel so bad.
But nobody speaks about that. So,
Of course they don't, because apparently Virgil van Dijk's the best defender that's ever been seen.
Yeah.
Don't know where these people are. But yeah, Matt, what do you reckon? Good goal.
Yeah, it's nice to see him get up and running. Like John said, also the stick that he's had during the week as well with the Netherlands side. It was just good to see him get a goal, and it's such an important goal as well because it sort of settles on our way for the rest of the game. It sort of set the tone, and you could see how delighted the rest of the team were that he'd scored. Like everyone running towards him, you could see everyone was absolutely buzzing for him. But yeah, it's really, really nice to see it. But the thing is, beyond what he's capable of, and that's exactly what we've signed him for. He'll come up with moments like that. Defensively, absolutely brilliant. Won pretty much every single aerial duel that he was up against. And him and Martinez look like obviously if they can play together consistently and obviously avoid injuries. I think him and Martinez, the signs are there of an encouraging centre-back partnership. But yeah, in terms of the goal, brilliant. But I did have to double check it had gone in. I'm a bit like you. I wasn't 100% sure at first because it was one of them where it sort of just rolled into the corner, into the net. But yeah, no, delighted that he scored. And yeah, hopefully he kicks on now and can hopefully chip in with a few more goals, hopefully.
Absolutely. And Beanie, for you, anything you want to add on that first goal? And again, as John says, nice to see a short corner paying off.
Yeah, I think it's just nice, as John kind of touched on, the narrative of the media to dig out our players. It's nice to see the lad show a bit of, strong mentality. He's been getting it from the Dutch side of things, and our media kind of fires that in there. The people on BT were quick enough to keep saying that he'd had a bad international break. But I thought he defended really well today. I thought he took the goal well. Yeah, fair play to him. I love stuff like that because it's a big sort of two fingers up to people who doubt us. And like John says, all our goals today have come from people. Even Garnacho, the narrative behind Garnacho this week has been, well, he liked this tweet and, he's been left out by 10 because of this and this. He just gets on with his job. He scores a goal. I'm sure we'll touch on that later. But yeah. The Ligt I thought was quality today. And I thought he was good against Liverpool, to be fair. I thought there was little sort of shoots of positivity in that game for him as well. So I'm excited to see what him and Martinez can do.
Absolutely that. And John, you will know, being the sports fan that you are, that in boxing, you've got to get up with the old 1-2.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we went and did. Having scored that one, it gives me no greater pleasure than I can possibly get right now than to say, and I say this with a straight face, I'm not going to say Marcus Rashford is back, just Marcus Rashford, because he'd never gone away. He was always there. But strikers are confidence players. They're never going to score in every single game, and people just seem to think they will. Now, you were one of the more vocal ones when it came to the Rashford Garnacho moment. and Rashford passing to Garnacho about having a shot. Well, he did this time, and it was perfect, beautiful, curled in. He had the perfect screen for the goalkeeper to Ramsdale not to see it until late, and it just trickled in. We had a new commenter today in Tony. Lovely to see you. Happy to see Marcus Rashford score a wonderful goal today. And it was wonderful. And you could see that confidence was immediate, because then he was trying it, even in the second half, trying to get those curlers in. And I put it down as a typical Marcus Rashford goal, because they are the sort of goals that we have seen him do from the left-hand side. Shift in, curl it in. Beautiful goal, wasn't it?
It was a fantastic finish. And you're quite right about, for me, because I've been a bit critical of Rashford at times. But I think what we've seen this week, I think it gets to a point where it gets hateful. Obviously, there were videos put out of that, of him training with that coach. I can't remember his name, but apparently Stratford Paddock did an interview with this coach earlier this week, and apparently several of our players have used him. I think Bruno used him during lockdown, and Dalot used him, and I know Dalot's improved as a player, and hopefully the work he's done with this coach will propel him. And obviously got slated for, if he stays silent, he's not taking a game seriously. If he posts training videos, it's PR, it gets obscene at times. But where I would credit him is that he's clearly taken the initiative on himself to say, I have been out of form, I need to try and get back into form, and I need to do something a bit different to what I have been doing the past year. And that's why I was delighted again that, because I think the Fulham game, the way silence your critics is to get a goal. That's ultimately what you're doing. I think that Fulham game, while Garnacho should have scored, no complaints about that. But I think if a confident Rashford would have taken that on and buried in, I think that's why I say if he had taken it on and scored it, he's off and running first game of the season. But today he's clearly done the training. He had the confidence to try that effort, and that he had a chance just before it as well, which led to the corner for the second goal as well, which Ramsdale made a good save. Ironic, I think that's the first shot Rashford has had this season in the Premier League, and it's taken him 4 games. So for me, it was a finesse finish. The role Ligt played in it as well was crucial, because there was that gap between the two defenders. But if they were to move across to close that gap, that meant that it was open in space. So they couldn't close that gap, and it allowed him to curl it into the bottom corner. But more often than not, if you direct it in off the post, it's almost impossible to save. So for me, it was a fantastic finish for Rashford. And usually when he tends to get one, he usually goes on to go on a run. And hopefully now that he's got one, he'll probably hopefully go on a scoring run over the next few weeks, hopefully.
Absolutely. This is exactly it, isn't it, Matt? That was, I think, the longest run that Marcus Rashford has gone without a goal in his career for Manchester United so far. I think it was about 13 games. But he's always got that in him. He loves this football club. He's missed out on playing for England over the summer, and still people are questioning him, even though he's just gone and put the work in. That they've been saying that at United, that he does put the effort in, and there was no one happier, it seemed, than Ruud van Nistelrooy when he finally managed to put it in the net. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant goal. I think it was definitely long overdue. I think more so to try and dampen down the criticism that's been coming his way week in, week out. But yeah, perfect finish. It's a typical Rashford goal, like you say, cuts inside and whips it into the bottom corner. But I think it just shows you what having just that one goal can do for confidence. I know it's quite a crazy thing to say that one goal can do so much, but the second half, that shot he had, where there was no one near him. Normally, previous games, he'd sort of like pass it back or play it to the side, but no, he sort of whipped it, went for goal. And in fairness, he tested Ramsdale, and if it had gone in, it would have been another superb goal. So yeah, the confidence is definitely there. I just hope now we can get the consistency from him. obviously it's okay doing it in one game, but hopefully now we can kick on and obviously try and get more goals throughout the course of the season, which we know he's capable of. But yeah, delighted to see him score, and I had a big smile on my face when he scored today, and you could see how much it meant to him as well. He was over the moon, you could tell.
No, absolutely. And Beanie, sort of the last word on the Rashford goal. What was it that pleased you the most about the fact that he'd got that goal? Was it the fact that it pretty much put the game out of sight for Southampton? Because you do feel that if Southampton go in 1-0 down, we do have a tendency then to maybe sit back a little bit in the second half. It only takes a moment, an error, something like that, and they're straight back in the game. Whereas at 2-0, you'd kind of hope that even if there was an error, we'd still have been able to hold on. And it just kind of killed the game, I think, for Southampton.
Well, it makes the halftime team so that bit more difficult, doesn't it, for the Southampton boss? Because it's a real mountain to climb then. I just like the fact that Rashford had a go. I mean, as John said, there's been a few periods this season where you can see that the confidence isn't there, and he's kind of done things that an informed Rashford wouldn't do. But that was just like prime Rashford there. He like takes it onto his right, he bends it in. It was just what we all want to see, because we all know how good Rashford is. I mean, Ten Hag said about Eriksen in the pre-match interview, he said Eriksen has been training very hard, so he deserves it. I mean, I think that's one thing as fans we don't really see, and we don't really take into account how hard these lads may be training and how well they may be training. If Rashford's training his arse off every day, then the lad deserves to be in that starting lineup. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I'll hold my hands up. I have openly said Rashford needs to be dropped. He hasn't been great. But if he's putting the time in, if he's putting the hours into training, as he said, with the pictures and stuff like that, then he deserves to be in there. Do you know what I mean? And hopefully now he'll see some payoff of his efforts, of his hours of work. And I love seeing Rude get up on the touchline. Yeah, I love it. I just love all that. It was a proper nice moment, I thought.
Yes, I thought so too, to be fair. So a couple of things going on. There's a lot going on in the chat at the moment. So we'll move into some of what's being spoken about there, because Bartime's been saying that Ahmad's effectively a pretty player, but we need goals. Garnacho and Rashford both scored today, but Ahmad perhaps not offering too much in front of goal. Whereas NT saying Ahmad scored before them 2 games ago. He links up better than both Rashford and Garnacho, who are only looking to score. Better players they are, but he's not far behind them form-wise. Now, I think I put on Twitter that, for me, Ahmad should be one of the first names on the team sheet. He's, for me, currently our player of the season. And he's had his breakout. Like, this guy, that spot is his. It should not be being taken off of him. Anthony shouldn't be starting over him. Garnacho, Rashford, none of them should be moved over to the right-hand side, because when he's on, it all comes down that right-hand side. If Rashford's going to be scoring and going on full cylinders on the left-hand side, that only helps us, especially with him. We'll get to the centre of our striking three shortly. But Ahmad has just been superb, hasn't he? And you have this whole conversation about what Ahmad can do. You look earlier on, we're going to get to Xerxes, as I said as well. Might as well throw him in there now, because Bartime mentioned here the only issue with the first goal he'd have liked would to have seen Xerxes pile in there till it showed more hunger and got the goal, but Xerxes needs that hunger for me. And Xerxes was interesting, I thought, because he had an opportunity early doors, and it was one of those where you sort of thought, oh, maybe you should have done better, but then you look at the replays and you can see actually he was on the stretch, and it was always going to be a bit difficult to score. But amongst the 3 and the 4, when you add Garnacho into that conversation as well, there's a lot happening there, John, a lot of moving parts. But I would argue that out of all of those front players, Ahmad's the only one that has excited us, given us that creativity. And although he may not have goals, none of the front lot really have had goals in them, but what he does have is that spark, and that moment from Maxi only came because Ahmad had won the ball, got himself round the back, passed it to Eriksen. He's one of those who's going to start things off for us, and actually, if there's one thing we've been missing, it's that creativity, isn't it, John?
Yeah, 100%. I do agree. Ahmad has had a good start to the season. He also was our best player in pre-season as well. So he's one of the few players I'd say he's possibly in form. And I was very surprised it didn't start the Liverpool game, if I'm being honest, but that's another discussion altogether. But I do agree, yeah. And what I like about him is that with each of our wingers, you get a different variety with all three of them. Garnacho's different from Rashford. Rashford's different from Ahmad. Ahmad's different from, Anthony. What I would say about Ahmad is he for a winger, he gets his head up and he looks to feed the plays in a way that maybe Garnacho and Rashford don't always do it at times. So for me, Ahmad, he's more of a head up type of player. He's obviously got pace and he retains the ball pretty well. Well, what be slightly critical of him is that a lot of the time he does come in onto the inside quite a lot, onto his left foot. For me, yeah, he perhaps needs, similar to Anthony, I think he needs to learn just to go on the outside a couple of times, just to add that bit of variety to his game. But without question, I personally think he's nailed down the right wing spot, and I think we're a better team when he does play. I know that, and the fact is, Ahmad, all our front players have got a goal each. Now, Xerxes, like you say, with the chances he had, he's missed 2 against Liverpool, missed 2 today. He also buried 2, maybe 3 of them. Whereas Rashford's off the mark, Garnacho's off the mark, Ahmad got 1 at Brighton. It's that healthy competition. If all our forwards are going to score goals, and it only strengthens the team if you have that unpredictability. If you can only play 2 wingers out of Ahmad, Garnacho and Rashford, you then, whoever starts out 2 of them, the other one can come on and make an impact as well. So it's a positive and a healthy thing to have your forwards in form. And obviously we got Højlund to come back as well, which I'm sure that when he gets going, he'll contribute a few goals as well. So I think overall we're not in a terrible position by any means, and I think Ahmad overall has done well, and I hope that he'll continue to nail down the spots, and hopefully he'll bring a few goals and assists with him over the coming weeks.
Absolutely that. I mean, this has been going around on Twitter that I've seen in the few minutes that I was spent online today, and oh my god. So Bartime, I think, is saying this about Nani, probably our only Barclaysman. Boxers actually had the decency to ask what this is. I honestly believe this word is going to be the thing that annoys me this year, a bit like generational talent was getting on my tits before that as well. Apparently, this is the criteria. During the Barclays Premiership sponsorship, a Maverick player scores goals you don't see in the Pep era, long shots after dribbles. And I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, if I'm being brutally honest with that. If you guys are enjoying yourself, you go ahead. I'd just like to see goals, if I'm honest with you. I don't really care how they come along at the minute. Matt, for you, I mean, I think a lot of conversation going on here, and people are actually putting Ahmad at the moment in that sort of level of early Nani. But are we not just being just a little bit harsh here? I mean, he's been by far our best player. Why would we be dissing Ahmad at this moment in time and saying that he's not given us everything that he needs to? Ultimately, he's been our best player. So why would we want to be negative about that? Surely we should be talking about the other players trying to raise and putting in the level of effort and creativity that he is. Because if the likes of Xerxes were performing to the level of Ahmad, you'd think we might be a couple more goals to the good, and that would only be a positive.
Yeah, I don't see, like you said, I don't see how you can take Ahmad out of the team at this moment in time. Also, people are saying he's not providing the goals, but obviously he did score that one against Brighton, although it did take a deflection. But he's getting himself in those positions to do that. But what I like most about Ahmad is his link-up play with other players, whereas other players don't necessarily have that in the locker as effective as Ahmad does. Obviously, it plays the 1-2s, and it was happening quite a lot today. I noticed the link up between him and obviously Rashford at times as well. So I do like the combinations that he can provide, and the directness of him as well is one thing I do really like, and he gets you off your seat. Obviously, he's running at fullbacks. At the end product, obviously, can be questioned, but at the end of the day, you could argue that for any player in our forward line, whether it be Rashford, Garnacho, everyone's going to miss chances. Everyone's going to make bad passes. It's just always going to happen. But what's the word? The intent, I think, is the most important thing with Ahmad. He's always looking to create something, and I just like the directness of him, to be honest. But yeah, the goals will come, I'd imagine, from him as well, because like I say, he does get into the positions where he can, whether he cuts in and shoots, or obviously John said he just needs to go on the outside a little bit more than what he does. But that will come in time. Obviously, the more he plays, and obviously if he stays in the team, the consistency, I think, will help him throughout the course of the season. But yeah, for me, at the moment, he's definitely one that's undroppable, I'd say, at the moment.
Absolutely. And Beanie, for you, where does Ahmad rank within all that? Because, again, you look at this game, all right, Xerxes can probably be forgiven for his first effort, but there was one where he had not quite an open goal, but he was about 6 yards out. And I thought, for all the world, this is it, 3-0. And it still didn't go in. So we can't just criticise Ahmad when it comes to our finishing at the moment, because what was also interesting about the TNT commentary was that, having spoken about the fact that United only scored 2, and this is where we need Dan really, because he can explain what a big chance is, but apparently at that point Manchester United were also the side that had missed the most big chances in the Premier League. So we'd had the opportunity to score a lot more. It's just our clinicality, and that's not just an Ahmad problem, that's a Manchester United problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, I don't think any of our front line has really sort of hit the ground running in the Prem so far. I think Ahmad was probably one of our best players towards the end of last season. I think he's comfortably been one of our best players at the start of this season. He strikes me as a slightly old school winger, that he kind of wants to run at players instead of constantly sort of pulling back and bringing him to midfield. He wants to square up that defender. He wants to go right. He wants to go left. And goals with him, I'm not too worried about, because I think with him that he's probably looking to assist more so than you're probably going to get from a Garnacho or a Rashford, who are probably looking for the goal themselves. So I think Ahmad will offer a hell of a lot to this team. I'm not sure the comparison to Nani, because I remember Nani being a pretty good player, to be fair. So if Ahmad turns into a Nani, I think we're going to be okay with that, because he was a very good player for us. But yeah, I've got no issue with Ahmad. I said it on my TikTok like towards the end of last season, Ahmad needs to be playing on that right-hand side, and he will nail down that right-hand side. And I think that's exactly, he did it in pre-season, as John said. He was quality in pre-season. And there's no one else that should be playing on that right-hand side other than Ahmad for me at the minute.
I'm not going to lie. If he gets 20 assists, that's 20 goals.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, I think people frown upon assists sometimes, but actually, they're just as important because they lead to a goal. Yeah. That's what they're called assists, obviously. John, we're going to quickly go around on this one. The red card was very interesting when Stevens went in on Garnacho as he came on. It's a tricky one. The ball is, the ball is low and his foot is high. I've been on and ahhing about this since it happened, because in the modern game, that's a red card. I don't think any of us can sit here and say it wasn't. I've seen worse challenges that have been given the red card. I put that he was out of control because he was, but he was in front of. He hasn't come in through the side. He doesn't look like it's not a leg break or anything like that. Do you think there was an argument for a yellow card on that one, or as the game was probably soft? Because I feel like Stu Woolley would be sitting here saying that's never a red for me, but I can't be sure.
I think it depends. Because I thought it would be a yellow card normally, but obviously you just don't know in the game. But I think it was. I mean, if he had got a yellow, it probably Garnacho would have helped in some degree, because he was, flying. He was off the ground, so he was a bit away. Whereas if Garnacho was standing his ground more, and he wasn't speeding away and a bit away from the body, then perhaps it wouldn't have been, perhaps it would have been more serious, possibly. So it's very hard to say for definite, but he did go in around knee high, if I remember rightly, and there's just no excuse for that whatsoever. He didn't need to go as high as he did to take Garnacho a while, so he could have done it a bit lower. So for me, it was a reckless tackling night. I'm just going to take him out at all costs and not thinking about the injury. So it's got to be intent as well. So in terms of like the height of his leg, then yes, it was dangerous. And also you got to factor in the care for your opponent. So you're not doing something which could potentially cause an injury on purpose. So this is why it's a bit of a I'll give up saying that, but basically, but for
in
me,
America that long is we're going to have to speak
yeah,
English.
I thought it would be a yellow card if I'm being honest, but then on replay, it was quite a hard tackle. So I guess maybe an orange card, maybe, but there's no such thing. So it's just. It was given red. It wasn't overturned, so probably in the book it probably is a red card. So yeah,
it's interesting. It's split an opinion. I mean, Ed's here saying it was a red for any player. Do I think it had been another team, maybe a cup game, maybe not? Bath time saying if you did that in Sunday League, there's a 10-man brawl over that challenge. Yeah, but Sunday League people are weird. They go off about all manner of things. And Benny saying definite red card in this current generation, which is what I said. Back in the old days, that's play on, we get on with it. And I completely agree with that. Matt, NT's put here, Nani's red card against Real Madrid in the Champions League will always be one of my biggest what-if moments. And if you think about that, it's very similar. Because he was clearly going for the ball. The ball was bouncing. It was high, the ball. And he's looking at the ball. So you could see that when he went in high in that match, he wasn't trying to get the Madrid player in the chest. He did, but there was no intent, as you just said. I would agree here also there was no intent. And I think this is kind of why I'm in an iron over it. But as John rightly says, the foot was high. It was knee high and the ball was on the ground. And that's really what's done for him, isn't it? Because I feel like if that ball was bouncing a little bit, there's at least a reason for his foot to have been that high. But it never should have been that high. And that was always going to be the red for that reason, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think like they said, a lot of it now comes down to modern football and the way the red cards and the rules are interpreted now. I think your foot's that high in modern football now. It's almost as certain you're going to be sent off for it. Whether you intended to do it or not, whether you intended to injure the player or the intent of the challenge in itself. I think just the fact that your foot's that high, you're always running the risk of a red card. I'm not going to lie, at the time when it happened, I sort of must have just looked away for a split second and I seen Garnacho sort of like rolling along the floor after the challenge was made. And I was there seeing the referee pull the card out. I was like, oh, then I looked at the replay and seeing it afterwards when they're showing it again. But yeah, you could argue maybe years ago, obviously it probably may not have been a red, but modern football, your foot's that high, you're never going to get away with it, especially with VAR around now as well. You've just got absolutely no chance of staying on the pitch, unfortunately. But it worked in our favour, so we'll take it.
Absolutely. And Beanie, same for you. He had a superb challenge against Fernandez just a little bit earlier on. Fernandez had started a move and put it onto the right-hand side. Ahmad put it through and Fernandez has just put the afterburners on. He looked like Roadrunner. Sorry, John.
Sorry.
Crikey, isn't that boring? But got running through. It was just a superb challenge. He timed it perfectly. Do you think it was just frustration that his side wasn't doing anything? Because by that point, they had the penalty. They hadn't had a shot since that penalty. That's got to be frustrating. You've started the game well. You're looking good. Penalty you miss. And before you know it, you've lost the game. Was it just frustration in the end of the day and he was just trying his best, or was he trying to G them up? Was this like prime Roy Keane, just trying to, get that challenge that gets the crowd up and everybody back on their side again? Or was it just a crap challenge and ultimately he had to go?
I think it was just one of them. Garnacho had done him, and for me, I just think he's trying to just stop him in that point and probably like take a yellow card for his team, as they say. I thought in real time it looked like a yellow because it didn't look that high. I didn't think in real time, but then I think you see the replay and modern day football, you got no chance, have you, really, of staying on the pitch? As soon as you're tackling that high, you got no chance. And he's a bit reckless. Yes, I don't really think you could have any complaints. You're going off, I think, for that in today's game.
And you know what? Interesting. We have a go at referees, but the fact you just said that in normal time it didn't look like it was that high. The ref's seen it.
I don't know if the assistant ref had said it was high because it was very quick.
So I mean, it's credit to him.
Yeah.
He's seen it, and so it's easy for us to have a go, but fair play.
I think you got credit, like you say, you got to credit the position. I think every single football fan will watch that and think initially, he's taking out, it's a yellow card, but he was in a position to see it firsthand, and we always get the benefit of replay after where we're like, actually, he's seen something that we didn't initially see. So, it's just, which we saw, but we didn't realise how bad it was. So, credit to him, he was in a good position to spot it.
And it was interesting because the TNT commentators, again, were saying, it was unnecessary. But actually, Garnacho's in that situation where he gets past him, United are countering. Yeah. So, it reminds me a little bit of the Ollie one against, I think, Newcastle, where he just basically set the geezer out and went, I'll take the red, see you later. He did have to try and make the challenge because otherwise United could have gone away again. So very, very interesting. What's Bartime saying here? Both feet off the ground, but studs into a player's knee. That's a red in every area of the game. I fundamentally disagree. That it was one in any area of the game. I'm not sure if you've seen Norman Hunter, but he had a few. I don't think so. I think
Chelsea, which George Best managed to evade. So yeah,
but yeah, currently it how it is now, it was never going to be very good at all. So there we go. Pock saying at first, I thought Garnacho died. Thank God that's not what the ref thought. We're getting positive feedback from there, wouldn't it? So we're speaking about Garnacho there. Obviously, at the end of the game, he did make it 3. Simon had mentioned earlier on in our chat that he thought 3-0 maybe flattered us a little bit. It didn't quite show the game as it was, but ultimately it was a good finish. I thought 3-0 for the whole entirety of a game, probably just about fair. I don't think it was necessarily terrible. John, what did you think? A fair reflection of the game?
Right. I would agree. I think, obviously Simon makes some good points. I do disagree slightly. I do think maybe the margin scoreline, you could maybe say maybe Southampton deserved to be 1-up, but then after we made it 2-0 half time, let's be frank, we could have had a lot more today. Like if we had shut out, I think maybe in the second half we managed to get in positions, but I felt we were trying to be a little bit too cute in front of goal, like trying to pass when sometimes you just want to just put your boot through it sometimes. And, obviously Xerxes missed that chance, but then obviously in the last minute, it was a grind because it would have been it put a cap on the victory. I think I personally think we could have, in many ways, I would have been disappointed if it was just 2-0 because I think we had an opportunity to get big result. I think if City play that game, they probably win that game 5-0 probably, and this is where I think maybe we've got to get a little bit better. But for me, I think 3-0 was probably a fair reflection on the game. You look at the first 3 games, Liverpool we deserved to lose. Brighton the general performance maybe didn't warrant a defeat, but we know what happened in the Fulham game. We probably should have, won by more. So I think for the first time this season, we probably got the result which reflected the general game. So for me, I think we were worthy of the 3-0 victory.
Well, I think I would tend to agree on that one. Matt, for you as well. I mean, there's been talk about the Instagram posts As Bartime says here, after you like Ronaldo's comments, I bet Ten Hag enjoyed it as well. Is there perhaps too much being made of this? I know that we had the whole Sancho thing. At the end of the day, he's like to pose from Ronaldo, who we all know is somebody he idolises. Is it the greatest post that Ronaldo could have put out there? No, it's not. But Ronaldo is effectively talking about Manchester United should be going for trophies and should be winning stuff. Is there an argument that Garnacho's likes that because he agrees that Manchester United should be doing better and should be going for them? Do we think there is anything in it whatsoever? Do we think that he did bench Garnacho for these reasons? Where do you sort of stand on it? Because I would say there's got to be a big difference between what happened with Sancho and Garnacho. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, Garnacho wouldn't have been in the squad whatsoever. The fact he was on the bench does point to it being a tactical thing.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference, obviously, if you're looking at him, comparing him and the Sancho situation, Garnacho actually turns up and actually performs to a level that we expect a Manchester United player to perform to, whereas Sancho just didn't turn up at all, I don't think, in his entirety of his United career. So yeah, I can see why people have looked at it in a way of Garnacho maybe going behind Ten Hag, that maybe in agreement with what Ronaldo said in terms of the criticism of the club. But to be honest, like you say, if it was anything out of the ordinary, you wouldn't expect to see Garnacho in the squad at all, possibly, or some sort of punishment, undermining the manager. I don't know, but the fact that he came on and scored that third goal, sort of just like the comment said, Ten Hag must have absolutely loved to see him come on and get that goal at the end just to top it off. But I think at 2-0, I think it was quite disappointing because you could see we were pushing for another goal, and I thought we could have easily got at least 4 today, easily. I think we were going through the motions because we were quite comfortable in the game, but we were playing it a bit cute, like John said, in and around the 6-yard box. But yeah, we'll take 3-0. It's a big improvement on the last game, at least. At least it's in our favour this time. So yeah, hopefully onwards and upwards now. We can kick on and hopefully start scoring that amount of goals consistently now throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, Beanie, when I started talking about that, you were nodding. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think the media just loves to stick the knife in, don't they? They like to stir the pot, and I think as a fan base, when you constantly see that on the news, on social media, you can kind of buy into it a little bit sometimes, and maybe think that there's more to it than there is. Like you say, he's like to post from Ronaldo saying United needs to be winning trophies. Everyone sitting here and everyone watching this will agree that United need to be competing for trophies and winning trophies. So is Garnacho agreeing that we need to be competing and winning trophies? Because if he's agreeing with that, then I'm okay with it. Yeah, I think it's the media that want to stir the pot. I mean, Garnacho, every time he comes on, he performs. He looks hungry for it. He looks like he loves playing for United. Yeah, I have nothing but yeah, I love Garnacho, and the longer he's in a red shirt for me, the better. Yeah, I thought he took his goal really well as well. Sorry, carry on.
What is, I was just saying, is there a double standard there, though, that because people like Garnacho, he's going to get away with more than Sancho did because people generally didn't think that Sancho had performed as well? Or is it just down to that, the fact that Sancho wasn't performing?
I think it is that thing that I think we probably felt Sancho kind of disrespected the club a little bit, do you know what I mean? And he wasn't giving it his all and wasn't giving it what we maybe feel that they should, wearing that red shirt, like giving their all. And with Garnacho, for me, he seems to do that every time he plays for us. And if he wants to like the odd Instagram, the odd tweet or whatever, as long as he's performing when he's in that red shirt, which Sancho never did for us, as long as Garnacho's performing, I'll give him a little bit of leeway to like the odd post or to do what, do you know what I mean? Because he's doing his job at the end of the day.
Fair enough indeed. I'm down to my last 2 questions, boys. And I think this question is a reasonable one because it was certainly one I was thinking of. So we'll start here with Box. He mentioned that it looked like Ligt got injured, then Ligt, then Maguire, then Mazraoui. And Bartime puts it, Anthony actually had to use his spin today because he was going to come on before Ligt got cramp and had to spin back into his chair. And then equally, he mentions it's 4 games in, we're back to 0 on goal difference. Why can't we just go for it against 10-men championship grade lumps? What I found really interesting there was watching the substitutions. Now, I wouldn't say we've got necessarily a plethora of attacking options there, but I'm finding it really weird, John, that we are having so many defensive substitutions this season, because this is not just today. All season we've seen it. Maguire's lasted a certain amount of time, and then he brings on Ligt. Now, this is rare. I've not seen this in football that often, that we consistently see defenders being changed. And Dallo was the only defender who saw out the whole game. We made 3 substitutions. Now, I'm trying to rationalise that in my head, and I'm thinking,
didn't Ligt play the whole game? Did he come off?
No, he came off
He came on.
Oh, he came off right
at the end. Anthony was going to come on, as we just said there, and then
of course.
and then he had to sit down because Ligt
I
had
lost
crack.
track of it. Yeah.
So all of them went, and we ended up with Casemiro in defence again, which I genuinely didn't think was going to be happening this season. Now, it was 3-0 at the end of the day. We, defensively we did all right. That wasn't a problem. But isn't it a bit weird that we are still sat here with so many defensive substitutions? Why is that happening? Why weren't we going all out to try and get like Beanie's already said, 4, 5, 6, and take advantage of the fact that we were doing so well? Was it just that we just weren't as clinical and that we could have done that actually, even with the players that we had? But what is it that's going on in terms of making these defensive ones? Because I wonder if he's worried about how they were last season, that he overused them. So actually, by bringing off a Maguire, he's less likely to rate himself towards the end of it. By bringing off, those sorts of substitutions. I know it wasn't Maguire who came off. Don't come at me, everyone. I told you I'm not well. Taking off a Ligt, taking off a Martinez. That's where I was going with that. It made sense to a degree, but I don't know. Help me, because I'm struggling.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't make much sense. Maybe it didn't make as much sense to that first couple of games this season, particularly bringing Ligt on in the Fulham and the Brighton game. But when it was like it's not like bringing on a defender see out a lead, is it? So for me, I mean, I can only imagine maybe there were a couple of issues. I noticed Ligt looked like he might have been limping a bit. Mazraoui again had a bit of a limp. Maguire felt something, and so I don't know precisely what the reasons are for that many changes to the defence. I can only imagine most of them were probably because they were, either they were injured or they just wanted precautionary. So if it's precautionary, I get there's no point in the last 5-10 minutes with something. It's better to take them off in that scenario. And I don't think the game was in any danger today. But it is bizarre when you make that many defensive changes, unless it's for injury purposes. But you want to bring on. It would have been nice to see Collier come on today, but I don't think he did. Anthony, like you say, got to come on, and Ahmad played the whole game, which I think he's come off the last couple of games. The first 2 games of the season, obviously he starts on the bench against Liverpool. So I don't know what the logic is. I think he probably is trying to rotate a bit more, and he's going to have to rotate a bit more. But obviously, like you say, you want to keep your defence the same if possible. Maybe bring on a centre half if you're winning a game with 5 minutes to go by 1 goal. Maybe in that scenario you bring on the extra defender. But but that many defensive changes, it's not a good look, and we all know about the injuries to our defence the past year or so.
Yeah, no, absolutely fair enough. Matt, for you, I mean, we talk about it, but actually when you look at the subs bench, India, who's a goalkeeper who will be lucky if he plays on Tuesday, in the general scheme of things. But Maguire's a defender, Evans is a defender, Collier is a midfielder. So, but again, with defensive tendencies. Garnacho was really the only properly recognised, exciting attacking sub that we could have brought on. Casemiro ultimately came on as a defender, but again, even in midfield, he seems to be more sort of defensive than pushed up top. You've got Anthony, of course, and as we said, Anthony's over there on the right-hand side doing what he can do. Igati and then Wheatley. There's nobody there really that you would look at and say, well, that's somebody that needs to come on. But this would have perhaps been a chance for Wheatley to be given that opportunity to get himself going as well. Where do we sort of stand with this? Because again, it's like the defensive substitutions really were the only ones that were there to be made. It wasn't like there was any game-changing substitutions to be made.
Yeah, it probably, like, I do agree with what you're saying. It probably would have made sense to maybe bring like a Wheatley on to give him a run out in a game. Obviously, you're 3-0 up. The game's all but won. And obviously, he brings on 3 or 4 new defenders and takes 3 or 4 defenders off. It did seem a bit strange at the time. Like John says, all I can maybe put it down to is either players having a couple of tweaks and he doesn't want to take the chance, or after last season, is he just being a bit overcautious with the defenders? Obviously, because defence was probably our worst position in terms of injuries last season. I'd say out of the whole team. So maybe it's a bit of being a bit overcautious with the players so early on in the season. Obviously, saying Ligt's not quite at 100% yet, and obviously, Maguire's played the first few games. He'd come in. He looked like he was limping a little bit as well towards the end, and it just makes you wonder: is he just being a bit overcautious? Because obviously, no one wants a repeat of last season where we've got Martinez and obviously Ligt. We can't afford him being out for a long period of time. And obviously, Mazraoui now as well looked like he had a little issue. So yeah, I can understand if he's being a bit overcautious because we do want him to protect the players a bit more than maybe what he did last season. Learning from his mistakes, but yeah, I think on the flip side, bringing Wheatley on someone would have been the perfect opportunity. Because how many chances is he really going to get this season? If you look at the attackers we've got available to us, is Wheatley going to get much of a chance off the bench this season? Maybe not, and probably today would have been that time to maybe bring him on to see what he can do.
No, absolutely. Beanie, for you, it was interesting because, again, we got to that point we brought Casemiro on as the defender. We didn't have another defender to bring on. Do you get worried that we might end up even still at the situation where we can't put out a proper, ordinary back four?
A little bit, yeah. As they started dropping in that second half, I kind of did get a little bit worried. But I don't know if how much of bringing them 3 off was they've all been on international duty. Obviously, Martinez has been in South America, and he didn't want to come off, did he? He's a bit of a warrior, anyway, Martinez, so I don't think he wanted to come off anyway, so he can't have been that bad. I think Ligt was a bit of a knock. I think with Wheatley and Collier, is he saving them for Barnsley? You know, is he going to be playing them in the cup game? I think he gets a lot of flack for his man management, doesn't he, Ten Hag? But I don't know. This case is he maybe trying to protect the players because last season was such a mess? Is he trying because he knows Martinez has just come back from a big injury? He knows De Ligt has had a knock. Is he trying to protect his players so we're not in that position again? But yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, they'd have all been fully fit and we'd have had Wheatley up top. But he's got to manage the game as it happens, hasn't he? But from the sound of it coming out after the game, it doesn't sound like any of them are particularly injured, and they'll probably be okay for Palace. They won't play on Tuesday anyway, will they? Really? So.
I mean, you say that, but I wouldn't hold your breath. Defensively, I feel like, because genuinely, what are the options? You know, yes, I can see Maguire and Evans playing. Can we see Hamas playing? I'm not convinced. I haven't seen anything from Ten Hag that tells me we're going to do that, which means you're likely to see Dalot and Mazraoui play again. So we might change our centre backs, but well, we don't really have much of an option. Do we start Anthony at left back? I don't know. I can't see it, Karen. Anyway, last question. Who's your player in the match?
De Ligt for me.
What do you want that one? Who?
De Ligt for me. I thought he was very good.
Yeah, I agree. De Ligt.
I'd go De Ligt. I'd maybe sway for what's been maybe Rashford.
It's interesting because this was mine.
Yeah.
I went this one.
I know.
I don't think we win that match without his save. And it seems ridiculous, really, because it was mainly he made 2 saves that I can recall. but I think he kept us in it in that 30 minutes and gave us the opportunity to do what we needed to do. But I can't disagree with the ones that you've mentioned. Boys, it's as ever been a delight, 100%. Really impressed with how we've got on. We've all made it. John wasn't feeling too great. He's made it. I wasn't feeling too great. I've made it. MT wasn't feeling too great. He's made it. There we go. Wonderful stuff. We've all made it. And we all get to do it again very soon with the Carabao Cup campaign kicking off. So we're very much looking forward to that. But we'll get to that when we get there. Keep your eyes on all of our social medias. That will tell you when we're going to be live next. But I should imagine it's probably going to be Wednesday, let's be honest. But there might be a TikTok live after the game on Tuesday. We'll see how tired I am. There we go. Brilliant. Superb. Thank you very much. Matt, Beanie, John, pleasure to have you all on. And we'll see you all on the next show. See you later.